And very spontaneous, we go. If you're all wondering how I get so much energy, that's kind of how it happens. That's literally me all day long. Welcome, courtesy, welcome to everyone. I'm really hoping that that you've been here before, but if you haven't, you're in for quite a little fun time. Welcome, Debbie's Gym Foundation. Cook along, cooking, demos, questions. We have experts. We have fireworks. It's going to be amazing. And who the heck am I? Let's just get right into it, shall we? My name is Nathan Lyon. I'm from Arlington, Virginia. I earned a health sciences degree with a public health minor with cadaver lab and physiology, all that fun stuff from James Madison University. I became a medical technician via UCLA Extension, went to culinary school, and I've been cooking on television for 15 years, have an acclaimed seasonal cookbook, and was nominated for an Emmy. Boom! How's that for being the youngest of three? I am not here alone, however, and I think other than cooking, answering cooking questions, I get to introduce this next person. This next person is the clinical oncology dietitian at Johns Hopkins Kimmel Cancer Center. I was cooking with her, next to her, with a lot of you earlier in the year in Washington, D.C., and she goes by the name of... When I say Mary Eve, you say Brown. Mary Eve Brown.
What an intro.
You know, it went on for about 45 minutes, and Sarah said,
yeah, it was
down to just a couple seconds. That's kind
of. Thank you so much. I've never had an introduction like that before, Chef.
You know this. If I lived close to you and you went to a coffee shop and somebody was like, cappuccino for Mary Eve Brown, I would go, Mary Eve Brown. I would follow you around everywhere. It would be crazy. How the heck are you? And welcome.
Thanks, Chef. I'm great. How are you?
You know, being here in Austin, Texas, it's going to be, I don't know, a heat index of 105.
7,000 degrees.
There's 1,000 degrees, so things will just start spontaneously combusting, and we can just grill, just being outside, just holding vegetables and things in our hands, and they'll just cook. And we are not alone, actually. For those of you that are joining us now, feel free to type some question in, either cooking questions for myself, or I don't know, nutritional questions and so on and so forth, literally everything else from Mary Eve Brown. But the way to do that is you type in your questions, and then this voice.
Good afternoon. Good morning.
All the above. It could be from somewhere halfway around the world, to be honest. That is Sarah Foreman, and she will be the person asking your questions to either myself or Mary Eve Brown. Speaking of around the world, I had the opportunity again to meet a lot of you in person earlier this year in Washington, D.C. Let me know where you are watching from currently. And what do you think? We should kind of get started, don't you think? Good?
Rock and roll.
Okay.
Let's go.
Boy, okay. I'm already pumped up. I have so much caffeine going through my body. I think out of 5 liters, at least a liter is coffee. So we're good to go in that department. We're going to make 4 things today. I guess we normally do. We're going to start with a soup, a really simple soup. This is a fennel, carrot, parsnip soup. Those flavors, you know, when we developed this recipe, we just sort of like use these different combinations until it hits this beautiful sweet spot as far as balance and sweetness and all that good stuff. And the best way to get started is with all these vegetables that I just named. Now, one of the first things I want to do, and I've already gotten started with a few of these vegetables, these are parsnips. If you've ever seen a parsnip, maybe you've never used them before, it's a very unique thing in Great Britain. They're very popular. Here in the States, they've just started to take off. Of course, you've all seen carrots and just a couple potatoes. Now, question for you, Mary Eve. I'm going to peel these, definitely the carrots and the parsnips, because they look a little funky on the outside. But I know that we're supposed to peel potatoes, but do we have to peel the carrots and the parsnips because we're going to cook them down and we're going to blitz them really badly, or good, depends how you look at it, and the vitamins? Is there any reason why we would not have to peel those vegetables?
Yeah, so carrots, parsnips, you can just use a vegetable brush and clean them really well. You don't, from a gastric cancer standpoint, you do not need to peel those. Yes, the potato skins, because they're a little bit harder to digest. And please try a parsnip. I mean, they are so sweet and delicious. And I think that they are like an underdog of the root vegetable world.
I mean, not just an underdog, but to be honest with you, I mean, it's a vegetable that's not as divisive as, say, kale. I mean, a lot of you watching right now, if you're trembling a little bit, that is a trigger word for you because people made you eat kale growing up. But I think that parsnips have a sweetness to them. And to be honest with you, I have made a parsnip dessert like a flan because it almost to me has a little bit of a vanilla type flavor.
I
And so
agree. Yep, totally
yeah,
agree.
you cook them down, you
They're
puree
so
them, and you mix them in with some
roasted,
eggs. Delicious.
roasted.
And roasted. And like we
Mhm.
talked about before, it's going to be over 100 degrees here. So, you know, a little olive oil, salt, and pepper, and just put the sheet pan out in the sun. You should probably be eating roasted vegetables by lunchtime. And a quick question for you, Mary. As far as carrots are concerned, you know, one of the things that I love to learn about is the history of different vegetables. And it turns out that the carrot, the orange carrot that we're most familiar with, is the last carrot on scene. The Dutch, back in the day, it was called the Orange Party, made carrots orange. So you have these yellow carrots, purple carrots, I think red carrots. Are there certain carrots that are going to be more, be it easier to digest or more nutritious than other carrots?
All carrots are really easy to digest.
Right.
And I love to have the variety of purple and orange, and all those different colors give you different cancer fighters. So orange is carotenoids. But even things, sometimes people think that are things that are white don't have nutrition in them, but they do. They have the alleles in them. So you've got the parsnips, and then you also have the fennel. So don't think if it's white, it doesn't have nutrition in it. If it's a vegetable and it's white, it does. And
All right.
fennel is also a really good digestive aid.
Well, fantastic. We're going to actually keep the fennel fronds for some garnish. And it's also one of the things about, oh, you know what? It's interesting. I would love to
You
find out.
just put the peel in there.
Well, you told me I totally could. I could just blitz the whole thing. It's true. So for those of you watching right now, let me know if you have never had fennel, or if you have had fennel, how have you had it? Because as a chef, it's one of the most versatile vegetables for me because I can thinly slice it and have it in a salad. I could braise it, I could roast it, but it has a flavor, and dare I say, again, the word triggering comes into play for people. To me, it has a little bit like an anise. I don't want to say licorice, but an anisey flavor, which is really lovely to me because it has this sort of sweetness natural to it. And is there one version of the fennel that might be easier to digest, like be it pureed or raw or salad?
Yeah. So if it's raw, it's going to be a little bit harder to digest, but I love shaving that and having it with citrus. And so well cooked vegetables are easier to digest. And I find that when I roast fennel, it takes away the bite of that anise a little bit. It sweetens it some. So we can roast things, right, to change how the flavor is, but then we can also then blend it to make it easier to digest. So right on.
Fantastic. I mean, the fennel, actually all these vegetables would make a really lovely, you know, like a mashed potato or an alternative to a mashed potato. I know that sweet potato is one of those things that I love. You know, fresh ginger with some sweet potato, a touch of cinnamon. I know we're in the wrong season, but you know what? People like to plan. A lot of us plan ahead, be it 11 months ahead of time, but you never know. But it's a wonderful thing to have. And it's also one of those things that you can make ahead, because once you blitz up a potato, like for a mashed potato, once it cools down, it's a little bit more difficult to get it nice and soft and fluid again. But things like sweet potatoes, vegetables, a lot of liquid in it, can thin things out, and then heating them back up is just snap, super duper easy.
That's a really good tip for people who are in like treatment, who are having bad days and good days. And they tell them on good days, batch cook and individually freeze. And that way on a bad day, you can just pull something out and pop it, you know, on the stove or in the microwave to heat it back up.
Fantastic.
The
Excellent.
key is individually. Don't freeze a huge bag of something because I don't want to look at that. I don't want to try that if I'm just doing it myself. So individually freezing is really the key.
It's fantastic. No, I agree, because otherwise I'm sitting there just trying to break off a
Right.
piece of something. And you're exactly right. Sometimes I'll take, you know, in the summertime, if I have a lot of pesto, I'll go ahead and just put those in, you know, ice cube trays. I'm sure you've seen that, line them with some plastic film or not. And you just pop one out when you're ready to use it. Some freshness, some herbaceousness, which is really nice.
I
Okay,
love that.
this is really simple, right? In this amount of time during this short conversation, I've thrown a bunch of vegetables in a pot. I'm gonna go ahead and add some extra flavors to it, flavors that I actually kind of really like. We have thyme. We're coming into summertime, right? And thyme is one of those things that has a nice natural lemon flavor, herbaceousness, kind of centers things. And what you don't have to do is pick every little individual thing of thyme, right? All I have
Throw
to
a whole
do
thing
is
in
just
there.
yeah, just the whole thing. Just give it a little squish, get those oils going, you pop that in there. I'm not gonna put those in the blender. If I forget, yell at me, okay? Then I'll just be like, whoa, but I think I'll remember. And then all the essential oils from that come out and they play together really, really nicely. I also need a touch of liquid. Now I'm gonna use vegetable stock. You can use chicken stock if you like chicken stock, or you can just use water, but I like to actually add more nutrients and more flavor whenever I possibly can. So I have Better Than Bouillon, something that I like. There's low sodium versions of every single thing. They're all coming or in organics. So this is an organic vegetable Better Than Bouillon. All I did was just take some water, some Better Than Bouillon, bam, Bob's your uncle, that's done, okay? And this is a lot better tasting. If you've joined us before, I like this better than I like those box stocks. They take up less room, just keep them in the fridge, and it's just so much, much more better. Much, much more better.
Sounds right.
Did I have too much coffee or not enough coffee? That's the question going on in your head right now.
Or a
Okay.
bad English teacher. Hey, Chef,
Or a,
another,
or a poor English teacher. No, that person was good. I don't know. Okay.
the other thing I think if you're kind of struggling with weight and soups are appealing to you, I love coconut milk in this soup as well.
Oh.
Good amount of calories, easy to digest. It would match really well, I think.
I think
Sounds
you're
delicious.
right. Coconut cream, so close. Okay, but I like that. I love that idea, and it's just wonderful to have these things on hand just in case you get this inspiration, and you can add a lot of extra flavor to it. So I added just a touch of salt. This is a low sodium. That's a lot of vegetables. You can hold off until the very end before you season with salt. That's totally fine with me. This is coriander, ground coriander. Has a very floral note to it that I happen to like. If you don't like it, omit it, leave it out. It's not a big deal. And I am doubling down on fennel. This is fennel on fennel. I'm not sure that's okay with your kids watching out there, but this is fennel on fennel. Okay. One is sweet, one is a little bit more herbaceous. And it just has this roundness to it. These two things that come together. You have sweet, you have carrots, which are sweet, you have the fennel, which is sweet. It's a lot of great flavor swimming in with that vegetable stock. Okay. Freshly ground black pepper, for those of you that like coffee, like myself. And I talked to a lot of you in DC, and a lot of you love coffee. Freshly ground pepper, please do not get that pre-ground stuff. We're talking about essential oils, and the oils are what kind of gets in and allows that brightness and the flavor to come through. That's it. Okay, I'm gonna cover it, put it over the heat. We'll just let that go for about 30 minutes until it's just all cooked through. We're not gonna strain it. So any of the nutrients coming out of the vegetables are gonna stay in that stock. We'll blend it all together. We're good to go, okay? So this goes over here. I'll put it over medium heat. I can't be the only person here that forgets constantly which one goes to which burner. I'm positive I'm not the only person, and we've lived here 6 years. How is that possible? I don't know. Okay, this is great. We are well underway, yeah? And then after we blend it up, you can put it in the fridge if you don't finish it and just keep bringing it out. It's fantastic. Really, really wonderful flavors. Next up is going to be a chicken dish, okay?
Oh, wait, Chef, can I say something about putting it
Yes,
in the
of
fridge?
course.
Okay.
Of course, Mary.
So the key, if you're going to put something in like a soup or a chili or any of that thing, you really want to put it in small containers to put it in the refrigerator, because if you put a large container of a soup or a chili or anything, the middle of it may not come to the right temperature. And then that's a foodborne illness, and that can cause sickness. So any kind of large amount of soup or chili or any of that kind of thing, you stew, you really want to put it into smaller containers before you put it in the fridge. Thanks.
Fantastic. No, that's absolutely 100% true. The one thing that I always like to do is either I'll take this whole pot and submerge it in some ice water, like have your sink, put some ice water in there, because metal, stainless steel, a metal bowl, not a glass bowl and not a plastic bowl, because glass and plastic hold on to heat. Where if it's just like those thin stainless steel, aluminum, whatever you got, stainless steel, they'll dissipate all that heat a lot faster. So that's another little 2-for-1 there. We just did it. Mary Eve, we're killing it. Okay.
I have a question for Mary Eve, but I'll let you get set up your next dish,
Okay.
and then I'll ask her.
Very good. Okay, so the next dish is tender chicken breasts with mushroom sauce and buttered noodles. So if you ever had a chicken marsala, this is essentially that without the marsala wine. I'm using boneless, skinless chicken breasts, and what I've done so far, just to save you from hearing me just bash the heck out of these chicken breasts, is I've taken some plastic film, pulled it out, put the 2 chicken breasts, closed it up with the film, and I've just taken this little mallet and just bashed them to about a quarter to a third of an inch, okay? And that's where we are right now.
And then you'll dredge it.
Oh, yes. Now, there's a couple more things to do. I just wanted to show you with this. Now, I have my little plate over here. This is just regular all-purpose flour. I have a large pan, large enough to hold these 2. If you want to do 1 chicken breast, that's fine too. These chicken breasts. There's only a couple things I have to do before these go in here. 1, heat it up. This is important. I would say like a medium high, depending upon your oven. I'm going to put in a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and a little bit of butter. Okay. The fat really helps it to brown, get a nice crust, good seasoning. But the butter is what tells me when to add the chicken. It's going to start to brown. That's when I know to add the chicken. Okay.
All right, so are we ready for a good,
Good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, Mary Eve, question for you. I have been told I need to drink more fluids, but that is not easy for me. I cannot drink and eat at the same time, as it makes me feel sick. Are there ways to help me keep hydrated better?
Yeah, good question. And we're coming into the warm weathers, right? So hydration is super duper important all the time, but even more so if you're outside and exercising and in the heat. I really think set yourself up for success, right? How much do I need to be drinking every day? And that's easy to figure out. You just take your body weight, divide it by 2. That number is the ounces of fluid I need every day. So number 1, figure out how much fluid do I really need to be drinking every day. And then number 2, find some kind of tool, some kind of measurement, a cup or something that you know how many ounces in that. So how many of those do I need a day? And then this person probably had a gastrectomy, because sometimes you'll get dumping if you drink and eat at the same time, because it just pulls, the fluid pulls the food through and then it can fall into the bowel. So drinking in between. So I'm going to make this up. Let's say I need, 60 ounces in a day of fluid, and anything that's caffeine free and alcohol free can count towards your fluid. Separate that 60 maybe into, 5 times. So I know I need to get probably, 12 ounces, maybe 5 times, and then set an alarm or keep a tally somewhere, because we get busy in our day. And then at the end of the day, we're like, I don't know how much I drank today. Or, I don't think I'm doing the right amount. So the right amount, put it into smaller amounts, and then keep track of how much you're doing during the day. The other is anything that melts to room temperature can also count towards fluid. So ice cream can count, sherbet can count. Watermelon has a high content of fluid in it. Jello can count. So if you're having a hard time just swallowing a lot of fluid, look to other things that can melt to room temperature, but they can also count towards my hydration. The other question I get a lot about is, should I be drinking an oral rehydration drink? Should I be drinking Gatorade? Should I be drinking Powerade? if you have losses, you have fever or a wound or diarrhea, then yes, drinking an oral rehydration drink is a good idea. But a sport drink is not an oral rehydration drink. They're a little bit different. So in order to get the right consistency of an oral rehydration drink, you can take a sport drink and dilute it half by water, and then that does become an oral rehydration drink. Or there's some on the market that you can purchase, but most people don't need that unless they're having losses.
Perfect.
Hey, and Chef, I have a question for you.
Yes, please.
Okay. Does the butter also then change the smoke point of the olive oil?
It does not.
Ah, very good.
That is a great question. It doesn't, because the smoke point of the butter, of the proteins, the milk proteins, still smoke at that same
Okay.
point. That's one of the misnomers of, like, if you sear a steak, it seals in the juices. It does not. If you wash mushrooms, something we'll be talking about very soon, they absorb a lot of water. It does not. So that is a fantastic question. The purpose of mine, like I said, putting the butter in there earlier, is once it started to brown, it even smoked a little bit, that's a perfect time to add the chicken. And the purpose of that is because when you add the chicken, the mass of that chicken brings the temperature of that heat down pretty quickly. So I'm not worried about it, burning or anything like that after the chicken is added. When you pound the chicken breasts, if you think about it, the chicken breast is shaped like a tear. It has a thick part, and then it tails off to a very thin part. When you pound the chicken breasts, it's always super thin, so it cooks uniformly. If you've ever been to a barbecue or even at home and you're baking chicken, here in the States, we're super paranoid about under baking our chicken, so we always over bake it. I actually use a lot of chicken thigh because you can cook it to like 190 degrees. These chicken breasts, you don't want to cook more than, say, 150, 155. It'll carry over a little bit. It's very easy to get chicken jerky. This makes it so much more uniform, so you can pull it off, and it is delicious through and through. Great question. So I use these gloves actually for you, Mary Eve, meaning I didn't want to touch the chicken itself because I know that cross-contamination is something that's very important to pay attention to in the kitchen. And I also didn't want to just go walk off stage by myself and wash my hands. So this is twofold, all right? So if you can look, can you see this one? Okay. It looks amazing. It is amazing. That fat that's still right there is just the medium that we're cooking it in. We're not going to like drink all that stuff down. I mean, if you wanted to, I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not going to. The thing you all have to do is just grab your tongs. It's been about 3 minutes.
Oh,
Okay. It's going to be about 3 minutes, both sides. Okay. And then we'll move on to some mushrooms. This is a really, really easy recipe. We're going to bang it out from beginning to end right now in real time. Okay. Super easy. Yeah. So let's check it. That looks good. Looks really nice. Yeah, that's nice. Also, when I flip the chicken breasts, or really when anything you're going to put in a pan that's nice and hot, if I have the chicken breasts here, when I flip them, I actually flip them to the parts of the pan that have been hot the entire time. I'm not going to just flip them in the same spot because that spot's too cold now. So I just sort of rotated and flipped them. You heard that psh, the initial sizzle, which is something we really want. I have another plate off to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and just pull it to the side, and we'll keep going. Question?
yes, I have another question for Mary Eve. When you're answering the question about the heartburn, could you also talk about bile reflux? I have not been able to identify food triggers, but maybe there are some.
Sarah, say that again. I'm sorry.
When you're answering the question about the heartburn, could you also talk about bile reflux?
Oh, bile.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So bile should not be reflux. So a little bit of anatomy for a second, right? So we have our esophagus, and there's a valve at the bottom of the esophagus before you get into the stomach. And then there's another valve at the end of the stomach that goes into the bowel. So when we eat, we chew, goes down to the esophagus, that valve opens up, food goes into the stomach churns everything up into a liquid, then the valve opens up and then it goes into the small bowel. Bile is produced by the liver and it goes to the gallbladder. It hangs out in the gallbladder until the body goes, oh, I need something to digest this fat. And then the bile goes down into the small bowel and its role is to digest fat. Okay. So anywhere along people who have gastric cancer, the system may not work right. So if I've got a tumor that's high up in my stomach, like it's called GE junctions, gastroesophageal junction, the valve may not be working. So I could be refluxing, which just means the stomach acid is being pushed back up into the esophagus. And if anybody's ever had heartburn, it's a terrible burning sensation. So the other thing that can happen is if my stomach has now been removed and these valves are gone, instead of the bile going down, it goes up, which is also just very uncomfortable and difficult. So things that make that valve loose are things that we want to try to reduce. And this is going to sound really strange, but and chef's going to be like, what? Okay, caffeine and decaf also make these valves loose. So caffeine, decaf. The other thing that makes these valves loose is mint, spearmint, peppermint. They relax the valve, which can help some people who have like IBS, like symptoms, but it'll also make these valves worse. And it's funny because a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm drinking mint tea for my stomach. I'm like, are you having reflux? Yes, well, stop doing the mint tea because that's making it worse. Eating large meals, eating high fat meals, laying down after eating. Now, some people will report if I do a lot of citrus, like if I drink orange juice, or if I, eat a grapefruit, or tomato products, like I ate spaghetti sauce, or spicy, that's unique to the person. Clinically, the things that release that valve are the things that and alcohol is the other one. Oh, and smoking, sorry, which we're not doing any of those. So caffeine, decaf, mint, spearmint, peppermint, and then smoking and alcohol. The other particular things are unique to the person. So what I usually tell people to do is let's get rid of those ones that we know clinically are causing the problem. Let's see if we get better with that. If we don't, really start looking at what are the foods that I ate and then had a problem. And then that's going to be unique to the person. Oh, I went out and I had a Mexican meal and it was really spicy. And that night I just couldn't sleep because my heartburn was so terrible. Well, then spicy is probably for you. Oh, I had, a glass of orange juice and I, had terrible heartburn. Well, then the orange juice would be for you. So I start with the ones I know clinically release those valves and then drill down if things aren't getting better.
Well, the acid reflux is something I've sort of wrestled with on and off for a little while. And I found out that if I have white wine too late in the evening, right after a big meal, that's a huge no-no. So now that I'm in my 20s, I like to eat a little bit earlier. Now that I'm in my
you day drink.
Or I day.
You start drinking earlier.
Or I day. I'm like, what time is it? That's a good one.
Yeah, certified by a nutritionist. Done.
Exactly. There, done. Start drinking earlier.
Do you want to catch us up on what you?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. So mint, I'll be darned. That's crazy talk. So what I've done here, this is a mixture of butter and all-purpose flour. Okay. All I've done was mix them together. It's a teaspoon of each, very small amount. This is going to be a natural thickener to this sauce. Okay. If you've ever tried to make a pan sauce, and you add stock, you add wine, what have you, and it's just super duper thin, this is a way to really pull that together and keep that flavor nice and hot. What I've done is I seared, right, this chicken breast that I pounded on both sides, pulled it off to a side plate. Right now it's just chilling. In that same pan that had all that beautiful dark stuff, that's called fond. That's a lot of flavor. Add a little bit more olive oil and butter, and then I've added these mushrooms, okay? Now, mushrooms have a lot of water on them. There we go. And a lot of water. And when you cook them, they give off a lot of water. And what'll happen is they can actually clean a lot of the fond off of that pan as they steam off. And then what I'll do is once they get a little bit of color on them, then I will deglaze with some more stock, and then I'll just go ahead and let that cook down. Add this lovely thing, it's gonna get nice and thick, add the chicken back in. Then all we have to do is the buttered egg noodles. Mary Eve Brown, let's talk buttered egg noodles. Is it better for digestion as regular Italian whole wheat noodles better? I'm not really sure. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, all pasta is easy to digest. If you start to get into the whole wheat, or like there's lentil pasta and there's chickpea pasta, that they're going to be a little bit harder to digest in people who are having already GI symptoms, right? But if I'm a survivor and I can work in some of those whole grains, whole wheat pasta or a chickpea pasta or a lentil pasta, I would encourage people to do that. But if you're having digestive, pasta is really simple to digest. Egg noodles aren't any different than like a fettuccine or a bow tie. They're all easy to digest. Sometimes I tell people if they're in treatment is to almost we tell people al dente is really how pasta should be eaten. I tell people in treatment, they need to overcook it and almost make it like really soft so that they're easy to chew and go down. But I have a question. What type of mushroom is in that pan?
These are just button mushrooms or
Button?
cremini mushrooms. Yeah, just the button mushroom, like an all around cremini, smaller cremini mushroom.
Yep.
These mushrooms are actually a small portobello mushroom. So you're like, they look exactly the same. They are the same, just portobello is allowed to grow to a much larger size.
So I have
And
a.
I tell, oh, go ahead, Sarah, sorry.
Well, I have another question for Mary Eve. This was a precursor to that, the bile reflux. So maybe you've answered some of this, but I'm gonna throw it out there. Question is, I have very, bad heartburn. That is what made me see the doctor, all the testing, and it was found the cause. I have a tumor at the top of my stomach. I'll be starting chemo in the coming weeks. Do you think my heartburn will get better with treatment? Are there any diet changes I can make to help reduce the burning? We did talk about that a little bit. I'm taking medications that are helping, but any suggestions on diet would be great.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Sometimes people think that when they start chemotherapy, they're going to feel worse. And I'm going to tell you the majority of the time, people feel better because the disease shrinks, right? So in one respect, if you have a tumor, what we talked about, at that junction, if it shrinks, it may make the valve work better. So the heartburn might get better. The only caveat to that is that some of the support medications that we give around chemotherapy, one of them is a steroid called dexamethasone. It's for nausea. It causes heartburn. So it really is going to depend on what the support medications are around the chemotherapy. But I think people need to know that these support medications also have side effects. And sometimes that's not communicated very well. Sometimes, I mean, we try to, at least at my center, be like, so we are giving you this steroid and it can do X, Y, and Z. And if that's the case, you could talk to your provider about, well, can I reduce the dose of that? Or can we try something else if the heartburn is really a difficult thing for you to work through? But I would also be hopeful that as the disease shrinks, things can get better. So, and then we talked about the things that can make heartburn worse.
So I feel like I kind of cut you off on a question with the mushrooms, Mary Eve. Are certain types of mushrooms easier, or is it much like the carrots where, certain vegetables, when you cook them down, that all of them are pretty easy to digest?
Mushrooms can be hard to digest for some people, depending, where they are in the journey. And so it may be something they can do, it may be something that they can't do. So I like, if you can digest them, I tell people try them all. Like, I think we, try oyster, try shiitake, maitake, portobello. I mean, they're all have really health properties to them. And it gets you eating more things, right? And I always say, the more things you eat, the more nutrition you get in.
That's right.
And another question about the pasta, going back to the pasta, Mary Eve, is it the same for gluten-free pasta, the overcooking, and is gluten-free pasta okay?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So gluten-free pasta, yeah, totally. And I'm only saying overcook it if you're having like nausea or belly pain, diarrhea, overcooking it. And then and we've talked about this before, but I also like, can I cook it in something that's nourishing, right? So if I'm going to overcook, can I cook it in bone broth? Can I cook it in, coconut milk? Can I cook it in something that's going to add some nutrition that's going to be soaked up a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, a number of people that I spoke with at the function here in Washington, D.C. earlier this year, a lot of people do that. And I was fascinated by how many things that I actually learned from a lot of the patients in recovery. It was just amazing. And it sort of spread my mind and brain as far as my abilities as a chef to actually get more nutrients. And I have a health science degree, and it turns out that's just the beginning. There's so much to learn, and every day that I come here, I'm inoculated with so much information, not just from you, Mary, but from everyone that I met in DC, and all these wonderful questions that keep coming in. Yeah, so things are happening behind me, and look how calm, cool, and collected I am. I'm cool because I'm inside. It's like 100 degrees outside, but I'm cool right now. Few things. The egg noodles are over there. I have a bowl with some butter off to the side. We do olive oil. I just don't like it when I make those noodles and they stick together. So I'm gonna pour them in there, drain them, pour them in there, stir them around. So we have these beautiful like buttered egg noodles off to the side. What I did is I took that mixture that you saw me make, which is just equal parts of flour, all-purpose flour, and butter. It's a teaspoon of each. Mix them together, and I just put them in with that chicken stock in the same pan that I seared the chicken in, and the mushrooms are in there, and it's all getting nice and blubbly jubbly. That's got to be a triple word score that'll kill it and just smash it. Just kills it every time. Bubbly jubbly. Boom. Kill it. 300 points. So what's happening? It's getting thicker. That's going in from like a thin thing to like a sauce. Okay. What's happening is any excess moisture that's going out there is being pulled in by that tiny little bit of flour, and also the flour that we coated the chicken was in that pan too. So I'm going to add the chicken back in. I'm going to just work it in there like a little warm bath. Okay. That's going to go through, and I'm just going to heat it back through until it's just warm. That's like 1 to 2 minutes. Okay. But 1 minute on each side. So watch this. Pan off to the side. These guys go in. Little hot tub action, right?
If you are unable to do the mushrooms, could you just make that sauce? Sans mushrooms,
Yeah, for sure.
just chicken stock and that flour mixture, and then
Absolutely. I mean, you could just get all that other stuff too. You could really use whatever vegetable would work. I mean, the thing is, a lot of these vegetables, when you cook them for not a long period of time, they're cooked through. Like a perfectly cooked carrot is lovely. Like a super overcooked carrot is still mushy and delicious, but it's still wonderful. So if you want to have a vegetable that goes in there, I know that when we talked about fennel doesn't break down into like mush like a lot of other vegetables do. So that's a wonderful thing to have on hand with this particular recipe. Any vegetable that works for you, not the potato, but any other vegetable that works really well that you want to cook through, thinly sliced, and work beautifully in place of these mushrooms. That's a good question.
your pasta is technically ready.
No, so pasta is ready. Okay. That's still cooking through. I'm gonna just pull off just for a quick second. I'm gonna drain it. Okay, I'm gonna pop it in this bad boy, and then I'll put it directly into a bowl that I have a few slices of butter. All right, so this is going in.
Draining.
We gotta drain. We got a lot of steam.
Can't see.
A lot of steam. Okay. There we go. There's a lot of, look at that, huh? That feels just so delicious when it's 100 degrees outside. We'll give it a little swirly whirly gumdrops, okay, until it's evenly coated. I'm watching the butter get smaller and smaller and smaller. My smile is getting larger and larger and larger. Okay, that is coated. There we go. A little bit of butter. Now, the butter and olive oil that's in here is like rich, it's unctuous. So one of the things I have to do is sort of thin that out with a little bit of acidity. That's where fresh lemon comes into play. Okay, just a little bit. Flip the chicken. Again, I'm going to warm it through both sides, looks very nice. Sauce is getting thicker. I don't have to, get anything to catch the seeds because I have fingers that catch those seeds. I lucked out, didn't have any seeds on that side. And I think we're ready. Yeah, I think we're ready to plate that up. I feel good about it.
That was great. So let me throw a question at Mary Eve while you plate that up.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, Mary Eve, question. I'm getting chemotherapy. My neighbor is making me an anti-inflammatory tonic. Her husband had cancer and she did this with him. She told me it was turmeric, ginger, and lemon. Do you think this is helpful or harmful?
Oh, okay. So, I'm thinking what they're doing is taking the roots and simmering them and straining them. Ginger is a natural anti-nauseant. It also has anti-inflammatory properties, antioxidant properties. So love ginger for everybody. Turmeric, also a very potent anti-inflammatory antioxidant. I love it for some people, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then I think the lemon maybe for vitamin C and taste. So ginger and lemon, yes. Turmeric, in some cases, some treatments that we use for cancer may not be the best to do with turmeric at the same time. So that's kind of cautionary. We don't know if the antioxidant properties of the turmeric would also interfere with what we're trying to do with killing cancer cells. But the ginger, yes. The lemon, yes. The other thing about turmeric, and if you want to do turmeric, use the root or the powder. Don't take a pill, because the pill is going to be at such a high rate that could cause more harm than good with treatment. The other thing about turmeric is it's not the curcumin, which is the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory property of turmeric, which gives it that beautiful flavor, that beautiful color, is not very readily absorbed by us in our bodies. But if you add a little black pepper to it, it is. So I tell people, if you're ever using turmeric in cooking, please add a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper. That way you're going to get more of those properties absorbed into your body.
There we go. This is all real time. Actually, Sarah gets a turmeric latte every single day. Sarah does. When I get a coffee, she gets a turmeric latte. It's amazing.
Sarah, do they add like turmeric powder?
They kind of hydrate a turmeric. I don't know what's in it. It's turmeric, black pepper. I'm not sure what else is in it. Could be it's all grounds, dried spice, and then some froth, some milk, and it's really delicious, and it is settling for the stomach.
And it sure is pretty. It sure is pretty.
I'll bring this to
So there you go. That is all in real time. Yeah. So egg noodles, the one that I like, this little brand, if you're rolling along, whether you're in Giant or Safeway or Piggly Wiggly or Whole Foods, I just really like this particular brand. It's really nice. It's great to have on hand as well, which is lovely. If you want to grate a little Parmesan on top, you can do that. So we have a couple things. Yeah. We have our soup, which has just been going on low. I don't even have to worry about it. You can do two things. You could use this, which I have to always sing the cherub song when I pull it out. They come and they just swoop it away. The immersion wand, you can use this or you can use a blender, okay? I'm gonna make one more thing with the blender, so I'm not gonna use those two things. So what I did yesterday is I blended it all together. It's lovely. The texture is fantastic. The only thing that has yet to be done, like I did with the first main, is add a little bit of lemon juice, okay? Lemon juice is that thing that just makes it bright. It makes it pop a little bit. So this is the texture that I like. If you want it thicker, great. You can cook it just a little bit longer. If you want it thinner rather, not a problem. Just add a little bit of water or some stock. This is the texture that I like. It's something that coats the back of a spoon. The flavor is just lovely. Mary Eve and I are both big fans of parsnips. I just think you're gonna love it. It holds up forever, pretty much in your fridge. As Mary was saying, go ahead and put it in smaller containers and just reheat them as you go. Fennel, if you remember these fennel fronds from the tops of the fennel, it has that really fresh, lovely flavor. It makes an incredible garnish because it's so beautiful. And again, if you want to do cheese, If you want to do a little bit of pepper, anything you want to do, that is up to you. But that is the finished dish. It's all in one pot. And you can cool it down, put it in the fridge. Bob's your uncle. Okay, so 2 things in real time that we actually had to cook. These next 2, we're not gonna cook. We're actually gonna uncook them because they're frozen. Well, one of them is frozen, okay? Bring this over, bring the whole thing over, and just go ahead and bang it out.
Bring the blender.
Okay, so. Any blender will work, okay? Any blender. I feel like a magician. There's nothing up this sleeve, nothing up this sleeve. A cinnamon peach pie protein smoothie. Flavor's fantastic. When Sarah and I recipe tested, we were like, nope, nope. That one, that's the one. So this is the peach pie smoothie. Okay, triple word score, killing it. Half a cup.
What is that?
What, half a cup?
What is that?
That.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Oatly. Yeah, what is that? Half a cup, it's 8 ounces. You know, we have some dairy and other things. You could do dairy if you wanted to. I just happen to like the Oatly. I just like it. You could do, is it? Actually, it's a question for you, Mary
You
Eve.
must be A-okay on Oatly.
Okay, but
But-
not almond milk and not other nut milks and things like that?
So this is a really good discussion. When you are looking at all the milk options, find the one that has the most protein in it. So I don't know if Oatly has a lot of protein in it, but there's a couple of products that are on the market that I really like. One is a product by Silk. It's an almond cashew high protein. It has a pea protein in it. Chef, what's it say there?
It says 650, no, I'm kidding. It only says 3 grams.
For what?
Okay. Okay.
It's 1 cup.
Okay. So the Silk almond cashew is it has 10 grams of protein. So if you're looking for that kind of product, I like that. Regular almond milk has no protein in it. The other is a product that has a cow on the front of it. It's an ultra filtered, ultra pasteurized milk, and it has no lactose in it. So it's dairy is there, but it's not lactose, which lactose is the problem for most people with dairy. I mean, there are some people who have whey allergies, and it has 13 grams of protein per cup. So it's a protein drink, but it tastes like milk. That could be an option. Then also Lactaid, which is a brand, is also lactose free. And they also came out with a high protein milk. So if you want to go, dairy free, I think it's the almond cashew. If you're going, you can do dairy, but you need to be lactose free. Those 2, the Lactaid and then the one with the cow on the front of it, are really great products.
We're not in 1980 anymore. Like, the products taste really very good, and it's just so wonderful we have these options.
What did you put in there? And then I'm gonna ask Mary Eve a question while you blend.
All these are great questions. So the cinnamon part, add a little bit of cinnamon, a touch of salt, like a teeny touch to balance out that sweetness. This was a whole can of the canned peaches, 15-ounce thing of canned peaches, vanilla extract, just a touch. And I'm going to add about a cup of ice to this. In addition, there was a little bit of Greek yogurt.
Is it Greek or regular?
Regular yogurt. Okay, not vanilla, because I like to I like to be in charge of my flavor profile and also the amount of sugar. So this is just a little bit of a plain vanilla yogurt. The Greek yogurt comes in next. I'm going to blend this with a cup of ice.
So let me ask Mary Eve this question first. So my gastrectomy is scheduled in the next 2 weeks. I live alone. Sorry, ice noise. I live alone. I will have a friend helping me when I come home. What foods do you think I should get to have for him that I can eat?
So a lot of the ones that we have right here, right? So pasta should go really well. Chicken should go really well. I love soups. If you can batch cook, in the next couple of weeks and then individually freeze things so he can just pull them out and heat them up for you. I love the protein drink idea. So peaches are really easy to digest. The Greek yogurt's going to be really easy. So having yogurt around, I think is a good idea. I think eggs are a good idea. I think nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter. I think of like baked potato, but you're not going to eat the skin of it. I think soups, I think, are a really, really good idea because soups can do two things, right? They can provide nutrition, but they also provide fluid. And the key, and Chef did it, you need to blend. So after surgery, you can't do liquids and solids together. They're going to cause you gastric distress and really feel crappy. But when you blend something, it's uniform, right? So I'm not getting pieces and liquids at the same time. Hot cereals, oatmeal, grits, cream of wheat. I think those are things that are easy. And then tell your caregiver the portion of it needs to be toddler size, small. If I don't have a stomach, I'm going to start with probably quarter tablespoons to quarter cup portions, but it needs to be frequent. Like every couple of hours, I'm doing something kind of small. So those are the foods I think to have in the house after you get home.
Excellent. You know, I did grow up.
Sorry, I just want to say, Loretta says the milk with the cow is Fairlife.
There you go.
That's the brand.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't want to say the brand.
Oh.
But actually, my
So
husband
much
goes,
for that kickback, Mary Eve.
my husband goes, you need to contact those people because you talk about it all the time.
Okay, and then of course, whatever protein powder that you want to add to that. I don't have one on hand, but that of course would add a lot of protein, extra nutrients. So that's completely up to you as well. So that's the drink. I think it's fantastic. The measurements are wonderful.
Did
This-
you pour the entire can of peaches with the syrup or just the fruit, Nancy's asking?
Just the fruit. Yeah.
You strained it.
Yeah, strain it. So just the fruit. Speaking of just the fruit, this last one is going to be a little frozen treat. This is where my brain went to the Greek yogurt. I have plain Greek yogurt right here. It is a peanut butter and banana yogurt bark. Okay. We have a little mini long-haired dachshund. This is his language. A little bit of a bark. I'm not even.
Oh, I'm thinking, don't feed your dog chocolate.
Well, no. But he likes a little blueberry every now and again. So this is just a cup of the Greek plain yogurt. I like it because they've sort of like pulled out more moisture, so it freezes a little bit better. It doesn't become so icy, so it has a bit more creaminess to it when it freezes. You can add whatever, if you want a sweetener, you can. I like a little bit of honey, and it's almost like when you add a touch of some sort of sugar to something, it impedes its ability to freeze solid. Yeah, so if I grew up on the East Coast, they put salt on the roads, so the salt lowers the freezing point. They could put sugar on the roads, that would be very expensive and sticky, but salt will lower the freezing point. And I have a sheet pan that I've covered with parchment paper. I like a sheet pan because it's metal. Okay, it won't inhibit the ability for this to freeze faster. If you have glass, it just takes too long. I like the sheet pan. If it's really dirty, don't worry about it because you have a parchment paper on top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spread this, maybe an 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick as such, right? So it already has a little bit of flavor in there. I am a big fan of frozen fruit. I really like frozen bananas, okay? This is going to go on there. That you're good to go. I have a bit of creamy peanut butter. Yeah, so creamy peanut butter. Could I use a different nut butter, Mary Eve, other than creamy, smooth peanut butter?
Yep. You could use almond, cashew. I wonder how tahini would be with that.
It's a little savoriness.
Yeah.
In there.
Oh, you know what? I also thought you could also in that peach smoothie, you could have used frozen peaches too.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. But then you end up, having something that's really quite frozen.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a genetic thing, but I get brain freeze pretty easily. And when you see my face, this face with brain freeze, you have to turn away. You can't even look at it. It's just like, that kind of thing. A couple of ingredients. Yeah. Peanut butter, Greek yogurt, a little bit of honey. Now I've got some banana. I'm going to go my grandmother style and just go ahead and slice them over the top. This is lovely. They freeze really easily. All this kind of goes into one bite. And it goes. Not covered. Just allow it to freeze. Okay. In the freezer. So make some space. If you don't have enough room, you can just go ahead and get a smaller metal pan. Or if you have all night, of course, you could use some glass, but parchment makes it a lot easier.
Or put it on a plate if you need to.
Yeah, you can put it on a plate overnight. It's just that this is going to take the least amount of time. Let me show you this.
Mary Eve, can you use sunflower butter?
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
Here we go. And that's it. That's what it looks like. Frozen. Yeah.
Looks like a
So when you're in the
painting.
mood, you can just go ahead and break it up.
Little snack.
Love it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Love it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost passive. So you've got the fat, the flavor, a little bit of sweetness, creaminess, the banana, like that sort of crunch with the frozen banana. I think it's just wonderful.
Awesome.
And here in Austin, it's going to be over 100 degrees with the heat index. So we're going to gobble this bad boy down like there's no
It
tomorrow.
will melt fast, so you do need to eat it.
It'll melt fast. So just
Or
little,
ice cream.
yeah, just small pieces at a time. Really enjoy it. And bang for your buck. It's one of the easiest desserts. Okay. So once again, I could start in the hip hop thing with Mary Eve, sort of an outro. I don't think we have time. I told you it was going to be fireworks and maybe a display. We don't have time for that either. But there is time for such extreme gratitude and thanks. We just are so honored to be able to share our knowledge with you. And I've learned so much from you as well. These questions are always fantastic. Help me become a better chef. Mary Eve guides me, keeps me on the rails as far as what to cook with. And I'm hoping you'll be able to cook some of these. If you do, post them, at least tag us, Chef Nathan Lyon, on all social media. But I'm gonna
And Debbie's Dream Foundation.
and
Obviously.
and Debbie's Dream Foundation, of course. So I'm gonna scoot. We have a number of people that we want to thank, and Sarah cannot do that with me jumping around. And of course, if I ever move to Maryland, the person I'll thank the most is Mary Eve Brown. Mary Eve Brown. Mary Eve Brown. Until next time, everybody, happy cooking. And Mary Eve Brown, we will see you in Maryland.
Thank you.
That was a fake frozen. All right, guys, see you next time.